2 years after the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls went public, the federal government said it now has a plan in place to address the injustices inflicted on First Nations people. Jason Gaidola joins us live with more on this. Jason.
Taz, a nationwide plan was released today, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the federal government is injecting $2.2 billion in new spending to bring sweeping changes in security, the justice system, health, and culture.
Today, a promise came down from Ottawa to end the violence, racism, and injustices Indigenous communities face across the country through a national plan starting this year.
We pray for a positive outcome in terms of this milestone.
Since the sweeping report into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls that was released 2 years ago, 231 calls for justice were laid out for change.
We accepted their findings, including that what happened amounts to genocide.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says an additional $2.2 billion in funding for Indigenous initiatives will be in place to help bring transformative change in areas including education, trauma support, housing, and a task force for unresolved cases.
All future actions must keep families, survivors, Indigenous women and girls, and 2S LGBTQIA+ central to decision making, actions, and tracking success, and honor their legacy.
The announced plan comes in the wake of the findings of the remains of at least 215 children at the Kamloops residential school grounds, which sparked a national response, including the placement of shoes in many places like Christ the King in Hamilton today.
There are over 6,000 documented cases of deaths in relation to residential schools.
It's estimated that at least 150,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children attended residential schools between the mid-1800s to 1996. Demand for further investigation on the grounds of other schools followed since the discovery.
Was how urgent this work needs to be done, that this is all interconnected. We are the relatives of those 215 babies.
The funding is set aside over the next 5 years, and details regarding the timelines of all this spending is expected to be released sometime later this month.